Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is...
And welcome back to The Law Show on CL 650. David Halkett, partner at McQuarrie LLP, and Sarah Morse, associate at McQuarrie, are on The Law Show today talking about the family law department there. When it comes to children and settlements with divorces, who enforces the custody agreements? Is it sort of self-policing?
Yeah, for the most part it is. You can go to court to enforce it. You can, if you've been denied your parenting time or such, you can go and seek various relief, make up time, fines against the other party. But usually it's self-policing between the two. You can, in extreme cases, get a police enforcement clause where a police officer will go and enforce the order.
Is that an extreme situation?
It is very extreme because not too often do you want to throw a 5 or 6 year old in the back, as I think I believe said earlier, into the back of a police vehicle to go to see the other parent. And it's rare that a parent will ever go so far to do that. And
do these child custody arrangements expire on age of majority?
Yeah, basically the residence and the custody arrangement would expire when the child is 19.
Okay. Now, what happens in a situation where you have an agreement, and you mentioned off the beginning of today's show, or maybe it was a previous show, that people often get married more than once, and they meet a new person, and hey, she lives in Victoria, and she wants the husband or her new husband to move to Victoria, but the kids are here in Vancouver. Is that person allowed to leave? How does it affect the situation?
Well, right off the bat, it's considered a change in circumstances if you want to move. We'll assume there's an order in place already. If there's not an agreement, it's a different scenario, but we'll assume there's an order in place that sets out the parenting arrangements. When you want to move, it's a change in circumstances, so you got to look again at what's best interest of the children. And there's a number of factors that factor into the move. How is it going to affect the visits? How will it affect the children?
Is it in good faith?
Exactly. So are you doing it just good faith, meaning are you doing it simply to ensure the other one doesn't see the child? That has to be extreme because usually the motivation for moving isn't really a factor. But if you're doing it and it's obvious you're doing it just so the other doesn't see the children anymore, the court can certainly look at it. You're supposed to give notice under the act of the Family Law Act of any intention to move, and you're supposed to give 60 days notice, and the other party has 30 days to respond.
Do you ever have a situation where the judge comes back and says, you can't move?
Absolutely.
I mean,
it does happen.
Grounds?
Well, they will look at factors as to, is this in the best interest of the child? So is it for the individual is going to have a better life and can provide a better life to the child? So they have a fantastic job opportunity, there's extended family nearby, good schools, all of those types of things that are in the best interest of the child. So if none of those factors are present, it may be that the court says, I don't know if this relocation is in the best interest of the child because all you're doing is taking this child away from the other parent and there's really no benefit. So it can happen.
One thing also to remember is that you only have the right to oppose the move if you are a guardian. If you are not a guardian, so you were never named as a guardian in an order or guardianship rights were taken from you, you don't have the ability to fight any move.
So if you're both paternal parents, or you're both biological parents, how would you ever not have guardianship?
If you didn't live with the mother or the father, in this case, if the father doesn't live with the mother and the child together, you're not deemed a guardian. You have to be made a guardian by court order.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Or if guardianship was removed, if you agreed by a consent order, for example, that your spouse could have sole, pre-FLA, sole custody and guardianship, then your guardianship rights have been removed and you would actually have to apply to become a guardian again.
All right, I'll paint another scenario for you. Say, the the husband is here in Vancouver, and the wife that they have the children together is maybe from Ontario originally, moved to British Columbia when they got married, but that wife has no other support system here, nothing, no parents, no cousins, aunts, uncles, nothing, and they would really like to be back in Ontario where they have that support structure. So what does a court do in that situation? Like how do you get through that?
Again, it's what we've talked about. What's in the best interest of children, and what factors would go towards a move and against a move.
So you're saying if the child's life would be better surrounded by grandparents and aunts and uncles and family, maybe in another province, that might actually be better for them.
Yeah, if it's best for the child, then it factors in. Sometimes they look as well as the parent who wants to move. If they're going for a job, they can't get a job here for whatever reason, and they can get a job there, they're going to be happier, and the parent's happiness flows down to the children. So, of course, then the children are happier, and it's better for them to be happy. We tend not to look as much on extended family because while that's a factor that you look at, it's not as important as what the parent themselves, because extended family rights don't trump a parent's rights.
Sure.
But in a case like that, where if she can get a job in Ontario that she can't get here for whatever reason.
And there's a lower cost of living. It's usually the economics of the situation that enable that parent to give the child a better life. You've seemed, in my experience, to affect that more.
Yeah. And a new partner certainly factors in as well, because they don't want, if someone decided to repartner and it's a stable long-term relationship, they don't really want the parent not to have to be with the person they love, because that's going to affect them sadness-wise, which will then flow to the children.
We see these celebrity cases of husband and wife, they've had children together, and then the children go back to Italy or France or Russia or wherever, and Israel, for lots of stories are like this, and then they stay. And they've gone on vacation to visit the grandparents or something for the summer, and they never come back. Have you ever had anything like that?
Not personally, but I do know a number of cases where that's been a factor.
We hear it in the news. Mostly it's celebrity based.
Yeah, and there's some countries that will not enforce an order from Canada. There is the Hague Convention. It's like all the conventions come out of the Hague in the Netherlands, but it is a way that you can go to the courts in the other country to enforce our order. But countries like Japan do not enforce.
And some of the Middle Eastern countries as well don't enforce. They're not signatories.
There was that movie, Not Without My Daughter, of Sally Field, that she had to escape from Iran after the revolution. And that happens a lot, where you go to the other country and they do not enforce our orders.
Because that's really tough, and you maybe willingly let them go. Because it's 2 months of summer vacation, you got to fill up their time. You know, if you have kids, we all know, like, what am I going to do with these kids all summer?
Exactly.
And then you have your ex say, well, I'll take them back to visit the grandparents, and we'll spend some time in Europe, for example. And then they never come back. Yeah,
and that's a tough one, because the furthest I had was someone went to Quebec and didn't come back, and the courts enforced it. We got an order here, and it was enforced in Quebec and such. But it's a tough one, because you have to hope that the other jurisdiction will actually recognize our orders, and sometimes you can spend a fortune and get absolutely nowhere.
I went to get our passports done for the kids, and was putting all the paperwork through, and the person at the passport office says, well, where's your wife and where's your kids? And I went, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
The two are at school. I don't know. Where's your wife? I have no idea. Like, meaning, I don't know where she is right now. And, I got phone calls, all of the people that were listed on the applications got phone calls, just to make sure that I wasn't trying to get passports to get my kids out of the country, right?
Well, that's why when we had to renew our son's passport, I just went down and although my wife, she said his dad's here. It's like, you just said my husband is here, because you say his dad. It looks like we're not together, right? So that's family law inside humor there. But yeah, you're right. That can happen.
Is it jokes a minute in the family department?
We see things that people don't see. Like, you see people walking in the mall. If you see a dad with a kid, you don't think, well, it's probably an access visit on a Friday night, Sarah and I probably think it's access visit. It's just the
Well, it's
way it
funny
is.
because there will be times where my wife goes out with the girlfriends for a birthday, and then I cooking me. Let's
Yeah.
go to Earl's,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I'm sitting there with my two kids, and I think to myself while I'm eating my hamburger, everybody thinks I'm the dad
Yeah.
that's been divorced.
Yeah.
Because I go and I see them.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's exactly what I see every time.
you never see the bright side, eh, David?
No,
It's just,
I can usually tell when people have broken up long before anyone else can.
that's another revenue stream for you.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up child support and custody, and when it comes to separation and divorce, next on CL 650.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.